So this is documentary series on Netflix called Untold. Most of the episodes have been real nice. The latest one, Crime and Penalties, was fantastic. Check that out when you get some time. But being that it's Flashback Friday, I'm in that little bit of a mode, and I'm a hoops head. I want to break down the Malice at the Palace episode because there's just so much about that moment that I remember without the documentary flavoring on it. So I have one of my South Shore family members, Headley, hop on it as we break down the Malice at the Palace episode. But we also throw our own memories on how we personally experienced quite possibly the craziest sports moment in the history of sports. We throw that into the pot. Plus, we discuss fan privilege, Jermaine O'Neal as a scapegoat. We share our thoughts on Ron Artest and if he was, low-key right for running in the stands. Shh, don't say that too loud. And, requesting a trade post-suspension, the understanding of media portrayal, and so much more. We pack it all in as much as we can within the hour for you, so please enjoy. And you should enjoy it, damn it. South Shore is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Hit the like button, the favorite button. Click on every point of the 5 stars for that support, and then do it again just because. This year's been crazy, so much surrounding us right now with everything COVID-related. The climate being out of control all over the world. It's just been really crazy times. It's partly depressing, if not mostly depressing. I just wanted to slide in and give you a healthy distraction to take you into the long weekend. A new episode of my story will be out very soon. I'm going to have details of that at the end of the podcast. So sit back, relax, and let us take you back to a time when running up in the stands was a thing. It's the Ave Podcast with Cal C on South Shore Radio. Shh, Ron's coming, yo.
Welcome to the Ave Podcast with Cal C on South Shore Radio.
Welcome to the Ave Podcast. I'm here to discuss the Untold documentary of the Malice at the Palace. But, I have my guest here, South Shore family member Headley, with me. How you doing today, sir?
Good, sir. I'm doing good. Can't complain.
There's a reason why I wanted you to specifically be on this, but I just to start things off, I want you to share your initial thoughts about, forget the documentary. I just want you to share your initial thoughts on the Malice at the Palace from when you're watching it. And the reason why I specifically wanted to get you on this show, I guess, to kind of lead things off just a little bit, is because there was a time, especially when you were living in Washington. I've been in Toronto for a while, but when you were living in Washington, you were of a select few of people that I will call every time there would be like a big game, a big play, somebody got dunked on, whatever the scenario is, big case scenario. I mean, nowadays you have the chat group, so you hit your group chat up like, yo, did you see such and such? But back in those days, that was a phone call, right?
True.
So
I remember that.
Yeah, so there's a reason why, but I want you to share your initial thoughts and forget the documentary for a second, but just on that whole scenario when you're watching it.
Yo, as I said, I remember distinctly. I was watching it, chilling at home, in DC, and first of all, this happened right towards the end of the game, and I was completely shocked. I couldn't believe what was transpiring in front of me. I almost felt like I was watching one of those old reels of the NBA in the 1970s with Rudy Tomjanovich getting destroyed. It just felt surreal seeing this happening live on my TV. I was like, this can't be happening right now. I was shocked. I was shocked. I couldn't believe what was going on. Straight up.
It's, you know what I mean, we're all used to it, but it's still very shocking when you watch it. You know what I mean? It's still very shocking when you.
Yeah, even watching the rerun of it, it's crazy how so much of that game or that brawl, it's still vivid in my head. Every almost every frame of that, I remember experiencing it, and especially that slide along, slip and slide punch
Oh,
by Jermaine O'Neal. I remember watching this and be like, "Yo, this can't be happening right now." Like,
because
Detroit must be going to buzz.
Because well, I guess I'm kind of spoiling, but I missed the game. But when you saw that punch, did you see that punch live as it was happening, or was it like a replay you saw?
Dude, I was watching it live this game.
No, I know, but I'm saying with that punch, was that punch specifically live? Like, did you see that live when it was happening, or did you see like a replay of the punch at the time? I mean, while you're watching the game.
You know what? Honestly, I can't recall if I saw the live frame of it, or if they if they caught it and then played it like seconds later or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All I know, I was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then even when they're going out the tunnel,
mm-hmm.
and especially like as bad as it was when Ron Artest went out, like when Jermaine O'Neal went out, like I was like, yo, these guys are gonna get injured. Like this is no joke. Like somebody's going to jail.
Yeah, I think that the lasting image for me when I think of obviously you think there's so much scenes you think about, but that's one of the lasting images I always remember is Jermaine O'Neal when he was walking back to the tunnel and everybody's carrying him out. Man. And it was like whatever people had in their hands, whether it was lint, car keys, popcorn, beer, whatever you could pick up was just being tossed on his head, tossed right in his cornrows. Like, I never forgot that. Like that will last for me forever when I watch that. Anytime I think of the Malice at the Palace.
Yeah, I think of that sliding punch. I think about when he went through the tunnel. And I don't even think about when Ron Artest went into the stands, but when Steven Jackson clocked the guy, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is really happening! Like this is crazy."
Honestly, that had to be like one of those moments where, as you said, you're watching a basketball game, a melee breaks out, you're kind of just like, whatever. But I can't imagine the surreal moment of watching like them fist fight fans on TV. Like that's one of the things that, as a basketball fan, I can't say I regret. You can't watch all these games, but like that's the one thing where you're like, that had to be so surreal in that moment, watching that as it was happening on your TV. Like, yo, did like Grand Theft Auto break out? Like what's going on here?
It was shocking.
Your brain must have
shocked my system. I was like, what is going on right now?
Your brain must have exploded.
And especially when you think about basketball fights. These guys are always throwing hammers and missing everybody completely all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And to just see them like connect in fists and it's against fans, I'm like, yo, I'm watching this as like the suspension that's going to be left and right after this stuff is going to be legendary. And it ended up was, right? But I was like, this is crazy.
So for me, it's a unique day that I won't forget for quite a few reasons. There's always points in life, but it's not really because of the basketball game. It's just a whole bunch of things that led up to it, I guess, right? So I used to work at this travel agency during that time, and that day my niece was born, right? So my niece, my niece was born that day. I won't mention the name on this, but my sister-in-law was going into labor, so I was like, okay, shoot, like, all right, let me know the news, go to work. I ended up having lunch with one of my coworkers. I ended up, after I think I didn't leave early, but I left like whatever time, 4:30, whatever it was. So I had lunch with my coworker, and it's the first time I realized, this girl's not bad. She's kind of cute. Ended up being someone that messed with for a while. We ended up dating. Ended up being completely disastrous. And it was one of those situations where that might be not so much his own documentary, but its own like limited series. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We won't even get into that. That's his own miniseries. That's his own 30 for 30. Yeah. So I ended up taking the subway, going to the hospital. Kicking it, meeting my new niece. You know what I mean? Kicking it for a while. And then I'm like, oh shit! Like, I look at the time. I'm like, yo, I gotta bounce because there was this big, huge party that was going on that, everybody was getting ready for, and it wasn't a long weekend or anything like that. But it was just a major. I forgot which party it was. It might have been the Black Affair. Might have been the Black Affair, right? Especially back then, right? So I had to go home, and them days, like, you wearing hard bottoms and slacks and shit. So like it ain't just you throwing on some jeans. You know what I mean? So I had to go home, iron my stuff, hop in my hoopty. You know what I mean? I get to the spot, we're partying and stuff, and all I remember is my pocket would not stop vibrating. Like around 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Hitting you up.
Oh my God. And that's the thing. So it was you, and that's why I said in the beginning of the story where like you were one of those people that would call we would call each other when big things would happen in the game or whatever, right? And my phone, and not just with you, but my phone wouldn't stop ringing to the point where it's like if you pull out your phone to get a number, as soon as you start dialing, you see like you're like, yo, what the like it was like that. I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on here, right? I'm like, something must be happening, right? Something must be happening. And I remember one of my friends. You were definitely one of those people that were hitting me up. But I remember one of my friends he texted me. I think I called him. I answered his call, but he couldn't hear me because obviously I'm on the party. So I think he texted me back like, yo, we're on Artest fought fans. I'm just like, oh shit, okay. Artest is crazy. You know what I mean? So I didn't even think about it. You
didn't know what was in store.
Nah. Right. So I'm just like, whatever. You're getting it in, doing the party, whatever. And at the time, we had a mutual friend that we was tight with at the time. We ain't tight, we ain't tight with him no more, but we had a mutual friend that we used to roll with. I'll cut his name out after.
Yeah, I was like, this guy really dropped it.
So I remember I was like, all right, I think I crashed by a spot that night. So it was like, all right, we'll meet up at your spot or whatever. So I remember we got back to the spot. I'm like, yo, I keep hearing this thing with Artest. So we're just like, whatever, Get back to the spot, put on the TV, and I'm like, all right, let me see this thing. First thing I remember is they didn't even show the highlights of the game. Like, the game was, like, irrelevant. The game was irrelevant. Like, that's the first, and in Canada especially, when they're leading off in the middle of like the fall or the winter with a basketball highlight and it's not the Raptors, you know something happened. So I'm like, oh shit, this is the first thing they're showing. I'm like, damn, okay. And they did not even show like the first quarter. They didn't show no pick and rolls, nothing.
They went right down to the final 2 minutes.
They went right to the Artest foul, right onto the Artest foul on Ben Wallace. Ben. And then the whole melee ensued. So I'm like, oh shit, okay, what happened here? So when we saw Artest run into the stands and we saw Steven Jackson throwing haymakers, dude, it's like all time stood still. I'm like, yo, what the hell? Like, honestly, we didn't even. I remember we just sat there. We didn't say nothing. We just like I think half the show.
Just like I was just shell shocked. Yeah, I was like. I was running, I was trying to talk to somebody about this. I was like, you see this? Are you watching this? Mayhem.
But in the show is like a 30-minute show, whatever. Like, I still remember we were like dead silent, and then it looped to like the next half hour, and we watched it again. Because we were just like, I'm like, whoa, I don't even know what I just watched. I'm like, I need to like, and then it's like it sank in the second time, and I'm just like, yo, just like you, I'm like, yo, I don't know what these fines or suspensions gonna be like, but it's gonna be astronomical. Oh. I'm like, oh my gosh, because Stern
record breaking.
Oh, because Stern was, first of all, it was an unprecedented situation, and then Stern at that time was really feeling himself. So
he was in heavy hands.
Oh my God! So that right away, like honestly, it was by far the most. I would say the most shocking and fascinating spectacle I've ever seen in sports. Honestly, outside of the only thing that I would match with that, Headley, was I remember being in New York watching the Mike Tyson Holyfield fight when he bit Holyfield's ear. Oh, like that was equally nuts, right? But at least that's between two fighters, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like that's the only thing I can equate to the two of it. Like it's just even to this day watching it, I'm like. I don't think there'll ever be anything like that again because all sports is too regulated. Yeah.
Now, if you stare at somebody too tough at the dunk, you're getting teed up.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there's no way you're going to see something like that. Mind you, you see the stuff with Westbrook and other fans getting too close and getting disrespectful. But as much as the guys will mouth off, you can tell, like, they'll be calling up the refs and the security. Oh, get this guy out! Like they're not even they're not looking to ever cross that line.
I
know Westbrook.
I feel like Westbrook might do it one day.
I know Westbrook, yeah, but you know what? I think it's more, I don't know, more theatrical than anything else. I don't think he would actually go in the stands and do that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the Palace was what, how many years ago? Like 20 years ago now.
Or close to it, yeah.
And people still, to this day, I mean, we talk about it. Like, there's a documentary on it. Like, so even some of these kids who weren't in the league, they know about it. You know what I mean? They know they can't do nothing like that.
Yeah.
As much as Silver doesn't, you know, he's not a heavy hand like Stern, but yeah, no one would try to go back in the stands like that.
No,
I don't think so.
And honestly, there's too much security and stuff nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
The moment that happens, I think like somebody's already on the case. You know what I mean? Getting the fan out of there. So
exactly.
Now, what were your takeaways from watching the documentary? Now we can get into that a little bit.
Well, it's crazy. I didn't realize Jermaine O'Neal and Ron Artest were at such odds, like over the years.
Yo, that was one of the biggest things that.
Yo,
I forgot or I just didn't know, but I was actually kind of floored by that.
Me too. I honestly didn't know that. I didn't know the backstory, how they almost fought in the back. I do remember reading how Ron Artest, I don't know, maybe Steven Jackson had said in an interview, but how he was in the back and he actually said, "Do you think we're going to get in trouble for this?" I do recall. I do recall Ron Artest saying that. I don't know how I heard about that and laughed.
Yeah,
I laughed the same way. I laughed the same way the first time I heard it, like I did again when I was watching the documentary. But I didn't realize that Jermaine O'Neal was trying to rush him after that.
Yo, but you know what was funny though? When you watch the doc, when they tell that story and you look at Jermaine O'Neal's face.
Yo, he looks heated still to this day. To this day, he still looks heated. Yo, he even admit to it. He's like, yo, when he won, you could tell that. I didn't realize how much that really did affect his career, right? When it comes to Jermaine O'Neal, because yeah, they were in the cusp of something great. You know what I mean? You never know, like with Jermaine O'Neal, potentially, let's just say that he won one for Indiana, right? That Reggie was never able to do, and he gets the Finals MVP. He's revered in a different light now.
Yeah, completely.
You know, completely different light. And then for him to say that, like he still felt a way even when Artest won it with the Lakers like years later. It really shows how deep that hatred was, man.
It's funny because I heard he's been doing the rounds, right? Like with the media and stuff with this documentary the last few weeks or what have you. And like now he's like, you know what? Like, you know, they kind of squared it off, but he's like, you know, with mental health and stuff now, he's like, you know, he didn't, you know, back then it's like you knew what was going on, especially with the fact that he had a psychiatrist with him everywhere he went. But
yeah,
you know, you never realized the ramifications of it until like later. Now you understand. You get older, you know what I mean? You understand those situations, and now you're like, oh shit, like yo, this guy, you know, really wasn't right. You know, he really wasn't right. But yeah, I didn't realize the tension was that bad. Like,
and go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the other part I remember hearing too, and this wasn't part of the documentary, because there was like I feel like the documentary could have been maybe like at least a half hour longer. I felt like it was a little too short. You know what I mean?
I felt like I could have watched a little bit more.
Yeah, but I know one of the things they left out, at least it wasn't part of the doc, was I think they had said afterwards that Artest and the fan John Green that threw the beer on him, they became friends. And I heard that set Jermaine O'Neal off even more.
Did they become friends or did they kind of like square it off?
Like they squared off or whatever. I don't know if they became like, you know, like sitting in each other's house, but you know, I think he said the fact that he even like Artest even met up with him and they had like a friendly chat. I think it's like they said it set Jermaine O'Neal off even more. That I do remember.
I didn't know it. As I said, I didn't realize the whole Jermaine O'Neal, Ron Artest beef that spilled over years. I didn't realize that Jermaine O'Neal, you know, was all teed off because of that. Did you know that Ben Wallace's brother died that same day?
I do remember, not at the time, but I do remember hearing that. Yeah, he died like that week or something, right? Like I didn't, you know, but
I didn't realize. No, but they said he died that day.
Oh, was it that day? I can't remember. If it was
Isn't it what they said in the documentary that he had said that his brother just died?
He just died. So I think he died that week or a few days ago, or or maybe the day before or something like that. It was really recent. Like obviously, it was super recent.
Because you know what? I can't remember if that's something maybe I heard afterwards or not. But I remember watching it and be like, "Yo, Ben really did overreact on that foul. Like, I mean, it was a hard foul, but how he came back at him so hard, I was like, I mean, the game was kind of testy, throughout, but I was like, I felt like he came hard at him, but I didn't realize Jamal Tinsley said to Ron Artest, you could foul him now." I was like, and then you have to realize, wasn't Jamal Tinsley the one that got in the beef at the club where they all had to like.
Yep, they all had to run and
yeah,
Jackson
exactly.
had the buses got in the air. So let's be real. Is this whole?
I didn't realize Jamal Tinsley was really a problem, man.
So can we just blame Jamal Tinsley for this whole thing then?
That's what I'm saying. Yo, it killed me when Steven Jackson was like, yo, don't put a power pack on Ron Artest's back. Like, he doesn't need that, first of all. And now you're gonna tell me to go foul people? Like, what are you doing? Yo, Jamal Tinsley. It's only because after that I realized, like, yo, this is the same. It was Jamal Tinsley that started a whole beef. He just seems like he's a gnat. Like this guy just like a little problem, like a little 6'1" point guard that like
always in some shit.
Just flexing. Yeah, exactly.
Always in some shit. That New York bullshit, like that New York bullshit.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think part of it for me though too is I didn't realize like all the legal ramifications. I forgot about all that stuff, man. Like, and the fact that they couldn't talk about that whole thing for 10 years, or at least for however length of time.
No, 10 years.
Well, however length of time that it was, right? Like they couldn't, like they said, they couldn't talk about it for years. Like I didn't realize the legal ramifications, and obviously with the fans, you forgot how much fans was doing stuff, man. Like, like you're thinking like the main perpetrators obviously was John Green, the two fans that came on the court, Turtle's cousins from Entourage, those guys. Who else? Those are like the main culprits, but like there was so much other people doing shit that you just didn't even, you didn't even think of. But like the one thing that every time I look at that, right, like. Because obviously Artest, runs up on the wrong guy. Can you imagine, Headley, you're watching this thing play out, and Ron Artest jumps off the table, starts running in the stands, and you're like, oh my, like you're like, it's almost like a surreal moment that is happening, and all of a sudden you realize he's coming towards you, and you didn't do nothing. Like.
That's where it's like you're like a deer in headlights, man. Like what's gonna happen right now?
Yeah, like you realize it's like, wait a minute, wait, the line's coming at me. Like once you realize that, like I can't imagine that look at his face is like utter horror. Like it's almost like Jason.
Dude, you got like screen. What Ron's 6'7", 245, or he's like freight train coming at you.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, that look at his face is like a look of sheer horror, man. Every time you see that. I see that guy's face. I'm like, yo, I wonder what the hell that guy was thinking. He's never been interviewed as far as I know, but I would love to get like, what was his actual reaction at that point? Like, what the hell was he thinking at that moment in time? Because I don't think he came in with that guy, right? I don't think he came in with he wasn't Green's friend. Idea. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think they knew each other.
But what's funny is that after all the clippings and all the video cameras and stuff like that, the way that this guy gets ID'd is that the head guy recognized him for being one of his neighbors that dated some chick. I'm like, how random is that?
I know.
Like, of all ways you get caught, it's not because of facial recognition or positive ID or something like that. It's like the head guy detective actually recognize you off the street. Not because you're a perp or anything like that. But he's like, yo, this guy dated a neighbor of mine or something like that. What I mean? I was at a barbecue with him. Like, that's crazy.
They're probably in the driveway sharing a Heineken at one point in time.
You know what I mean?
But I mean, between that, like the fact that what were they saying? Like, there's basically no police presence for almost like 10 minutes. Because when you think
Yeah.
about that situation, like as was happening, no security, no police officers, that situation could have been way worse. Like honestly, I think if certain fans knew that, Headley, it could have got lethal. I think it would have got way worse than that. They're lucky, like it didn't like go off the rails before the cops got there. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was bad, obviously, but I think it could have gone way worse, knowing that there was no
Of course.
police, no security around. You know what I mean? There was like,
And the thing is, what I can't remember, was that just how the dynamics were back then, or was there something lacking? Like, was there like, did they for some reason were understaffed that day or whatever the case would be? I can't remember if that was. I mean, because you never really looked at security.
well,
So I couldn't remember if there was a reason.
yeah,
If there was an actual reason why the security was low that day.
yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure what the reason was, but I know one of the things that they implemented afterwards was, even from that point forward, I think they cut off the liquor basically at a certain point of a game now. Like it's either right after halftime. We're back before, like you can get drinks like right to like the end of the game, right? But I think they cut off the alcohol at like either like halftime or right after halftime now. You know what I mean? So it gives people a chance to sober up before the end of the game. Like that, I remember. Like they changed the rules for that. So so I think that was like one of the obviously, because a lot of alcohol was involved in that, right? And everybody had liquid courage that day. I think that was part of it too. I think one of the other things I forgot too, just wanted to mention this point is, and obviously you were in the States at this time, so you probably saw this more than I did even, but like just the media coverage during that time, man.
They got destroyed.
You remember that, right? Like the days afterwards and stuff. I mean,
yeah.
in here it was bad too, but like I know in the States you had ESPN, so it must have been way worse.
They were destroying them, and that's where you're like, yo, this fight is gonna. I mean, you knew it right from the beginning, but then it didn't help with the media talking about like, yo, you got to put the hammer hard on these thugs and these dudes and on these prima donnas. So you knew, like, when you talk about battery packs, you don't need to put a battery pack in Stern's back, but like you do all that stuff, you're like, okay. If you thought there was any kind of chance that maybe it'll come late after the next 48 hours, you're like, no, there's no way.
And
there's no way.
And the thing that's like, it's a great point that Jermaine O'Neal brings up, right, with regarding the regarding hockey, like when you compare it to hockey, and it's ingrained in the sport, like instigators and fighters and stuff like that, right? But I don't know if you remember this, and you probably do remember this, because at least seeing these highlights, because I think we're both too young to actually be there to remember it. But you remember there's a legendary highlight. I'm sure you can watch it on YouTube or Google it. But it's a legendary clip of the Boston Bruins. Remember when they fought? They ran into the stands and were fighting fans.
Yeah. I do remember that. Was that a playoff game?
I can't remember if it was a playoff game or not. That I'm not sure. But I mean, obviously something broke out and it spilled into the stands, which is crazy because you have glass. Yeah, which is crazy because you have glass. It's not like how you can just run in towards the stands as in any other sport. Like you have the plexiglass all around the rink, so they, especially on the bench. So
did that happen before or after Because I do remember that now. Now that you bring it up, but did that happen before or after the melee?
Oh no, this is way before. This is like in the 70s. Like it's an old clip. It's a crazy clip because I mean there was a point where I forgot what the hockey player, but there was a point where one of them was beating the fan with his own shoe. Like
yeah, okay, yeah. I think that was the older one, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like back in the 70s or whatever it was, right? I don't know what talking points I went that day, but I mean, were those guys called thugs and all that stuff? Like, you know what I mean? Like, were they called thugs and and banished them from the game? I'm pretty sure that was just, oh, what a crazy night, and he just kept it moving, right? Like, none of the words was coded when that was being broadcasted back then, right? So. So when you look at that situation now, it's like you forget, like, and we know how powerful media is and stuff, right? But, in a situation like that, especially when you don't have a good reputation like an Artest, you have a sketchy reputation like Steven Jackson, it's like an avalanche. You know what I mean? And even somebody like Jermaine
it doesn't help, man.
No, and even somebody like Jermaine O'Neal, who up until that point never did anything. You know what I mean? Like, he was pretty exemplary throughout the league. His character, none of that even mattered. His image didn't matter. He went right down the hill with that avalanche. Like, sorry, he went right down that avalanche as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't realize how really it really played a toll on him. He's like he was able to get his games acquitted, like his penalty.
Right.
And he's like, I would still get kids who weren't even born during that time ask me about the melee. And you can tell just by how he was talking, you can tell like that aggravated the shit out of him.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
he could not get away from it.
Well, think about, I mean, Teddy, imagine and that's the thing when you're a celebrity, right? Whether you're an athlete or entertainer, think about your worst moment that you ever had in your life. And every year, every few months, every city you walk into, some fan or somebody's bringing it up. Like your worst moment. It could be a breakup, whatever it is. It's your worst moment or one of your worst moments ever. And everybody's still reminding you of that every day. So it's like you can never put it past you. You know what I mean?
Never. Never.
And for him, it's like you could see it. Like you could almost see like the wane on his face. You know what I mean? Just that pressure of just like, I can never live this out. I'm talking about it again now. You know, I'm okay with it, but it's like you could see like there's a ton of baggage that goes along with that moment. You know what I mean? And it's like you can't.
As we said multiple times, like it's Jermaine O'Neal's part in all this, where I was like, damn, I didn't know it like that.
And I mean, and look, like, you know, going back to David Stern for a little bit, but you know, I wasn't a fan of Stern really and truly, especially in his later years, because I thought he was like, he started becoming less of a commissioner and more of a dictator. I felt a lot of times, even though he was great for the league in terms of business and stuff, you know, and you hear the stories even after he's passed, which is interesting. Because, you know, when somebody passes, you know, everybody pays their respects. And usually from that point on, you know, you hear more stories. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You hear the amount of stories I've heard in the last, like, year and a half and stuff, like, from him, like, it's not good stories. There's some people who are openly, like, I remember, I forgot which podcast I was listening to, but there was one guy that came out and he was like, yo, I know he's passed away. I know, you know, like, he's gone now, but whatever. You know what I mean? I'm just like, damn, you know, like, damn, like, you know, like they're like, yo, he was a great commissioner, but he was an asshole. He was a complete asshole. He's as great as he was. Like he had no problems trying to run you down. You know what I mean? Like if he had to, especially if it was to save the league. You know what I mean? So
I remember the interview when he was on Roman Vernon, and he was asking him a question.
Oh, I remember this. I can't
remember what question it was. Oh, about tanking. And he's like, that's a stupid question. That's like me asking, like, do you beat your wife? Because you've been accused of beating your wife. And I was like, wow. I was like, damn. Yeah. I was like, yo, he really came in and brought a gun to a knife fight, man.
Yeah, like he
was like, what the hell?
There was a point towards the end of his career, he definitely took the polish off. You know what I mean? He took the polish off, man. He was just like,
he was just cutthroat.
Yeah, there was something about him I just didn't like. But at the end of the day, it's like, look, you know, he ruled like a dictator, but he was semi-right. Like, he was right in the fact that obviously the players got suspended. They needed to be suspended for that. But, you know, looking back, it's like the way he left them out to dry. And they're the ones that took the brunt of the responsibility. You know what I mean? It's like that's the way it was kind of catered. And it was like none of those players, well, those three players in particular, never really recovered from it. You know what I mean? Like Ben Wallace was the only one that kind of got away with it, but but again, he wasn't fighting fans, right? He just pushed our tests.
And did you remember that he was throwing his armbands and all that stuff?
No, I don't even remember that.
Man, I didn't remember that. But like it's there's some details, like intricacy details, you don't remember all that sometimes. But I was like, interested. He's the one that started like throwing stuff. Mm-hmm. At Ron Artest in his direction, you know what I mean?
And the fans get hyped.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
I mean,
they reciprocate.
Mind you, I guess I'm only thinking about this now, but how perfect was that throw?
Yo, it was an underhand throw, It hit him right in the chin.
That's like a professional. You ever watch like cornhole? Like those cornhole tournaments where you throw it from a distance, you throw it through the block? Like that shit was perfect.
And the way that he flicked it, like he flicked it underarm, like
all wrist,
crouching down. Like, yeah, he couldn't have got it on the nose any better. It's one of those things, like, if you plan on doing that 10 times again in a row, you probably could never get it again.
No, for sure. All those times, like, how much times does that happen where the bottle gets thrown at, on the court, usually it never hits anybody. That hit, like, as you said, like, it caught him right in his chin.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, right on his chest, chin. Like, it was perfect. It's funny, because it leads me to this, too, regarding, like, we have, like, white privilege. We got fan privilege, right? Because we're guys that have played sports, watched sports. We know professional athletes, at least some of them who's playing and stuff. When you see fans, like fans have such a healthy sense of entitlement, man. Like,
yeah,
like fans really do feel like, and not like us, obviously, but fans really do feel like you can say and do anything, man, and get away with it, right? Like, I mean, in case in point, like you saw the examples this year in the NBA playoffs where like Trae Young got spat on. Kyrie Irving got like bottles thrown at him, and Westbrook, not Westbrook, but like what did happen to Westbrook when he got the popcorn tossed on his head?
Yeah,
when he was trying to leave the arena. But it's like fans really do have this sense of entitlement, man. Like, listen, man, like what was the league that you was running back in the day, the fantasy league? What was it again?
Virtual NBA?
VGM, NBA VGM.
Yeah.
VGM. So you used to have this fantasy league. So it was almost like the daily fantasy, like DraftKings. It was almost like that, right?
Exactly.
It was basically like the early form of
like that.
Yeah, it was a basically early form of that. And I still remember this to this day because I lost this matchup because it was half your homies from Toronto, Montreal, and half your boys from Chicago that you were in school with. But I remember losing this matchup one time and I lost it by like a few points. Reason being because I had Lamar Odom, and Lamar Odom got me -5 points. I still remember this. I never had a player give me -5 points in any fantasy thing before or since. Man got me -5 points, and I lost, right? And then about 3 days later, the Clippers come to town. We're at Studio 69. I'm drinking a Heineken, and this guy walks right past me, diddy bopping through the crowd. Man, Headley, I think I gave you this story before, but I was like, yo, it took everything in me not to smash this bottle over his head, right? Because I was so mad that this guy cost me this loss. But at the same time, I'm like, of course I didn't do it because I'm like, that would be obviously stupid to start, like a melee for fucking VGM. Like, that's ridiculous, right? But those fans that can like see that moment and be like, yo, fuck you, Odom, you know what I mean? Or go out of control or douse him a beer, you know what I mean? Or something like that, even in that moment, to me is like how do you cross that line? I mean, and it happens all the time, right? Whether it's on or off the playing field.
Well, it's jokes. I mean, you know my relationship with Kwame Brown. Every time I used to watch a game, and let me preface and say this. Kwame, don't come after me.
No. We love Mama's cooking. We love.
We love all that. But during that time when he played with Washington, oh my gosh, there would be times, I swear to you, not Calvin, I'll be watching a game, and I don't know how you do it. He would beat me to get to Club Dream, and I'm like, yo. I swear to God, like, did this guy even shower? Like, you just had a game and went 0 for 5. You know what I mean? Had no impact, and I would see this guy like double fisted in the club walking by me, and there'll be times my hand would be shaking to dash something. But obviously, I'm not crazy.
Right?
See, he's 7 foot. You know what I mean? Probably 100 pounds over me. I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep my frustrations about you to myself. But no, there would be too many times I would see this guy and be like, man, yeah, I swear you didn't even break a sweat today.
And I still remember going to Argonauts game, right? And this is I got a chance to go to Argonauts game back when this is when the Rocket was here, right? Rocket Ishmael.
Okay. Yeah, Rocket Ishmael.
And I remember he dropped a pass, and he had a good game. Like this is the year that they won, right? And there was kill. I don't even remember who they were playing, but there was killing this team, and he dropped this pass. And this guy was so drunk. This guy got up, stood on his seat, and just, like, he couldn't hear him, but the guy cursed him out, like, to no end. I'm like 11, 12 years old. I'm like, yo, what the
11,
heck?
12 years old?
No, I know. I'm like 11, 12 years old at this point.
Okay.
I'm like, I think my aunt at the time was trying to cover my ears because it was like, this guy was going crazy, right? This guy was going crazy, but I'm like,
Yeah, the hot mic caught all that, eh?
Oh my, no, you know what I'm saying? But I'm like, even going way back into those days, it's like we really treat players like they're not human.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like we treat them like gladiators, right? Like they're for our entertainment and our entertainment only.
Right.
They got no feelings. They got, you know what I mean? None of that.
Like they don't have the same. I mean, yeah, the situations may be different, but they have bad relationships. They have. Somebody might have ripped them off, and then now they're heading to a game. They're not in a good mood. You know what I mean? Like, they might have gotten into an argument with their girl. That's not going to affect their work just the same way it would affect your job if you got to on that argument with your wife, and now you're going into work. You're not going to be
what makes it worse is that social media doesn't make it any easier neither now.
Don't.
Now they'll rip you at the game. Then you go home, and they rip you for another 10 hours adding you every waking second that they can. And
God forbid you do something stupid. God forbid there's like a blooper. You threw an air ball at the worst time or what have you. I mean, you're saying the end of the game. Sometimes you can't even check your phone at halftime. God forbid you have a bad first half. Right? So like this is like a perfect example of these guys are human, but they just happen to be elite in athletics.
Dude, imagine if there's social media around when that happened.
Oh my God, it would have broke Twitter and Instagram.
Oh man,
it would have.
You think the Jordan meme would have got around? Jeez.
Oh my God.
There's so many iconic things that would have been going on with that night.
Yeah, like I said, man, like, when you see again somebody like a John Green, and this man, decides to throw that beer at Artest. And then watching horror when he runs into the stands, and even as this guy is fighting the wrong person, you would think like, whew, he didn't get me, and he would just try to hightail it out of there.
Nope, he was
this guy's like, yo, this is a free for all in for me. This guy's still throwing shots. Like to me,
he still sounds like he's a little bit out of it. Because even when I think they're old clips, but still. You can tell, like, it's almost like
he wasn't right.
He relished this whole thing,
But to me, that's like the height of fan privilege. You know what I mean? Like, you throw the beer, the guy actually does something unprecedented, runs into the stands, and while this guy's beating up the wrong fan, you're like, yo, I'm gonna sneak in some shots at this guy. Like that to me is like ultimate, fan privilege. Well, that and of course Turtle's cousins coming on the court and trying to fight Artest. Like that's the other part too. Like the part in that documentary that made me laugh was it Carlos? Yo, that guy's an asshole.
I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name, but I think it was Carlos. But one of the fans, the main fan they were interviewing, one of the guys that came on the court.
Why did I think it was Charlie?
Or maybe it was Charlie. I can't remember his name, but he was an asshole. Even watching him in that documentary now, you're like, yo, this guy's a jerk.
Yeah, we talk about Ron Artest sucker punched him and all this stuff.
Yeah, that was a bitch move.
Not Ron Artest, sorry. Jermaine O'Neal.
Oh, Jermaine O'Neal.
Yeah, I'm like, please. Do you really think that if you squared up with him, like that would have made a difference anyways? Yeah, try to make it sound like he got a lucky one on me type thing.
I love what Reggie Miller said though. Reggie Miller's like, yo, thank God Jermaine O'Neal slipped. Because he's like, if this guy didn't slip, he would have been dead. And you know what? And I kind of believe him because when you're watching the footage and they're kind of carrying him out of there, I'm like, yeah, but
you realize afterwards he was like he's thinking about his bag. Exactly. He's thinking about the bag. The fact that I think the nurse was saying, or the head of security was saying how they were in there trying to figure out how many zeros they're gonna get with all this.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure that's why some of them are running on the court, hoping they can catch a bag.
Imagine that.
The way
let me get in the course like you get punched at.
Right? Like, yo, how did you get this $100,000? Yeah, I rushed our test and I blacked out. I woke up in the hospital the next day. That's how I got this Escalade. You know, like But as we were saying before, like I've never wanted to put my hands on a guy. Like I don't care how mad we were at any fan, whether it was Kwame Brown, for some Raptors fans earlier in the day, Vince Carter. Nobody wanted to fight these guys. Like, it doesn't matter if he went 3 for 15. Like, it's dumb. Like, I get that you would be tempted. You know what I mean? But
no way, shape or form did my mind ever get close about actually doing something. Like, come on.
Here's a question I want to ask you. This is not even up for discussion back and forth of mine. I just want to ask you this simply. Ben Wallace, was that two-handed shove the greatest face shove in the history of two-handed face shoves?
Well, I mean, I said it then, and I said it again when I watched it. I was like, yo, that was like that felt so heavy-handed after a tough foul. Even though it was a tough foul, it was a flavor. But like, yeah, how the way that he came back at him, right in his neck, like, jeez. Yeah, and obviously Ben Wallace is no slouch himself, right?
No, you like leave that man alone. Leave that man alone, and all. Even now, leave him alone. That ain't a guy you play with. And I mean, he had that reputation in the league during that time too, where it's like that wasn't a person he played with. You know what I mean? So, like,
and then you forgot like how many times this guy he dead ass tried to rush Ron Artest multiple times.
Oh yeah.
Before Ron Artest went on the score table.
It's
what I mean?
It's funny, and they didn't bring this up in the documentary, but I don't know if you remember like when obviously when they were in the stands and the fans, like some of these fans were throwing blows. I don't know if you remember seeing there was a big, huge black guy that was throwing blows at one of the players. I don't know if you.
I can't remember that. But
yeah, they didn't show it in the documentary, but I do remember this because that guy in particular was Ben Wallace's brother.
Oh, it was, huh?
Yeah. So they said once those guys came in the stands, he was just. Especially because after what happened with their other brother passing away, and then that foul happened, and now these guys are in the stands. Like he took his moment. You know what I mean? He took his moment. I think he got banned from the arena too. Obviously, right? That part always gets underreported. Like that. I think I gotta check again, but the brother was definitely throwing blows. I think it was his older brother too, but he was definitely throwing blows. I think it was Fred Jones. If you look back on it, like Fred Jones had, like he didn't connect, thank God, because that was like he's a big boy. Like when you look back at, check it again and see, but he is a big boy.
Yeah, I gotta look at it again because I missed it, I guess.
Yeah, like he's a big boy. Like he was throwing them blows like nobody's business. And then it's funny watching this thing too. I'm like, did Tim Donaghy really have to be involved in this game? Like I know he didn't do anything crooked, but I'm like, did he really have to be the one reffing this game too after all the history that he's had with the league?
It's funny. I was surprised that they interviewed him. He was part of the game, but I'm surprised that they interviewed him.
No, for sure.
Somebody else.
For sure. What about Ron's reaction? Like, what were your thoughts on him requesting a trade?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because at the time, they all kind of needed like a clean slate, right? Mm-hmm. But just hearing the backstory now, where the amount of money they lost and Rep taking a step back, and then he gets out of this mess. I wouldn't say unscathed, but I mean he landed in a good situation,
right
at the end of this. Still at the end of the game, like the guy lost 72 games, which is practically a whole season. That's deep.
And I think it's something that, like, listening to his side of the story, obviously you're right. Like everybody wanted a clean slate, but you can understand, like, at that point, like the fact that, like, how that would scar him. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, especially for somebody who was not, like, mentally stable at that point too, right? As he admits, and and he's kind of known for that. But like at that point, it was, it's funny because back then, like, thinking back on it, back then you were like, it kind of confirms that like Artest is just crazy. After all that, it's like, yo, dude, how can you leave? You know what I mean? Like those guys sacrificed, like even at the time, like you didn't really need a documentary to tell you that, but like those guys sacrificed like their reputations for you. You know what I mean? So I'm like, even if you wanted to leave, like, dude, wait a year. At least just to owe those guys like everything they put on the line for you to be like, all right, let me at least, come back this season. Let's see if we can get, recapture the glory and get it back, even though, Reggie Miller retired and everything else. But as you said, like, to this day, Jermaine O'Neal is still feeling a certain way, like, about that. You know what I mean? The fact that after all that, you're just, like, the moment you come back, you're requesting a trade. We did all that for nothing.
Like legit, right when he came back, too.
Yeah, like, literally, right when he came back. It's like, yo, so after all that, like, dude, now you're quitting on us?
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. They have right to be heated.
You understand what mental health looks like, man. And, as I was saying before, like, as you get older, it kind of changes your view on everything. Like, I don't know if it's funny because I don't know if you ever seen that Ron Artest documentary. He had one about a few years ago. I think it was on HBO as well. But, like, if you ever get a chance, or Showtime, if you ever get a chance, watch that. That one was really good. But, as you get older, you realize, man, there's so much of these issues and things that you have to unpack, man. Like, it all stems from, like, your youth. You know what I mean? Like, just your foundation of, like, once you don't have a strong foundation or a platform for, like, in those formative years, like those youthful stages, man, it could take you years to unpack that, if you ever even do. Some people carry that baggage with them for the rest of their life.
And what's funny is that, I don't know how true this is, where he talked about the reason why he was laying on the scores table, because his psychiatrist, when he lies down, and makes him count to 5 or count to whatever, and to kind of calm yourself down.
Right.
So, if you take his word for it, he was basically trying a coping mechanism, and then. In the same second where he's trying to calm himself down, it's like that hit of the bottle just completely snapped him.
Yeah.
Like from whatever Zen mode he was in, it just completely snapped him right out of it. To go not just snap out of it, but go right to the other extreme.
And it's funny because you don't even remember, like, as time goes along, you forget so much of these things, but. Like the fact how we started off the season, because I totally forgot about that, where he was trying to, like, do an album, and I think he had a record label, and he was trying to put out an R&B group, and like he wanted time off and stuff to go promote his record label, and it's like, yo, what are you talking about, dude? The season has started. Like you forget all that stuff happened.
And how Jermaine was already kind of like icing him out. Yeah. For that nonsense to start with, right?
Yeah. Basically.
So but it's so funny because this whole time, you as I said, like that slide and punch, I always remember. And it's like, the whole time it's like, yo, this guy fought side by side, fought hard with this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing everything that he did. Like this guy wanted to go back into the stands after getting all that stuff thrown at him.
Yeah.
And then to realize, like, in the locker room, he almost went to blows with Ron Artest. Like, it shows, like, yeah, you ride for your team. Like, what's the name? Steven Jackson was saying, like, you fight for your brother type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it just shows, like, he's all about team. But as an individual, he was like, I'm not fucking with this guy. Like, I'm straight not fucking with him.
They got nothing in common. Like, nothing in where they even want to be around each other, but, like, still gonna go shoulder to shoulder with you. You know what I mean? In war, right?
Exactly.
Still gonna go with you, and that's what you want, right? But like I said, with our tests, it's interesting though, because like I said, if you like I was saying before, like if you I don't know if you ever seen this documentary that he had last year, or not last year, but a few years ago. But when you watch like how he grew up in Queensbridge, and you know what I mean, and I mean, I don't have to tell you how the hood is in New York City, but like,
yeah, exactly.
But like his upbringing between that and then growing up in Queensbridge, like by the time he gets to the league, it's like, yeah, like he's all.
And don't forget, he went to St. John, so he stayed.
Yeah, that's right.
He stayed home too.
Yeah, he didn't even leave home.
Exactly.
He didn't even leave home, which I think it's probably for his situation. It probably would have been great for him to like just get away
to leave. Exactly, for sure.
But he never did that. Like it's funny because like when you look back, like his environment, like that situation made him to be who he is, but it also left so much baggage with him that like, you know, it carried it to the point where like it actually blew up a franchise. Like it
completely.
It blew up a franchise, and to the
Completely.
degree where I thought what was interesting is, you know, when he wins the championship. I don't know if you caught that part. Where he wins the championship, and they're asking him, "How do you feel?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
like he's just riddled with guilt.
He feels like a coward.
Yeah, he's riddled with guilt to the point where like Steve Smith was just basically like, "Yeah, well, tell us about the game." Just like you could see, that he caught the moment.
He's like, yo, I don't like where this is going. I have a feeling this is not going to be made for TV.
Yeah, you can see even in that moment, like he's thinking about, yo, I should have had this one already, or you know, what I mean, I really screwed up over there, and you know, and it's interesting to see, like as you know, as big and tough as he is, he still carried so much guilt and almost a little bit of fear from Jermaine O'Neal. Like that to me is crazy. Like, yeah, it just you know, those situations, man, when your foundation isn't strong, like or like you lack certain life skills, like it can send you sideways. It doesn't matter, you know, who you are, and especially if you're in a high profile position or career, you know what I mean, whether you're an entertainer, whatever it is, where you're famous or the spotlight is on you, man, that shit could really send you sideways if your head's not right, you know, as you know, right? And I mean, this is like the perfect example of it. And it's safe to say, like, really and truly, like you feel sorry for Jermaine O'Neal, because you think about him where it's like, yo, this guy sat the bench in Portland for 4 years. Most rookies, when they get into the league, or even if they come out of high school, they're playing by like year 2. You know what I mean? At least getting some time. This guy was getting no minutes for 4 years. Finally leaves the Pacers, gets some shine, builds himself into like a rotation player, builds himself to a good player, builds himself to an all-star, builds himself to like one of the best players in the league. And then that moment blows up in your face, you get hurt, and then that's it. You're just bouncing around from, you know, team to team, and Hall of Fame, all that stuff. Where like for somebody like him, like basically the Hall of Fame was within his grasp. Wouldn't you say? Like that, like to me, like he was pretty much there. Like,
and that's what I'm saying. Like if he would have got a championship ring and possibly like a Finals MVP, he'd be looked at in a whole different light.
Yeah.
Whole different light. I mean, coulda, shoulda, would, you know, it's all ifs, but I mean, they weren't far.
All right, so let me wrap up with this though. Like, what? I guess this is like the $1 million question. All these years later, if you're on our test, if you specifically are on our test, do you do it again? Because I say yes.
Do what again?
When that beer hits your chest.
You really think after all this he would do that again? I say no. I don't think so.
But if it was you, like if that was you, would you? Well,
first of all, are we talking about me knowing like what the outcome would be? Would I do it again, or just would I do it a first time if I was in Ron Artest's shoes?
If you're in Ron Artest's shoes,
I don't know if I'm running into the stands. Like, for real, come on. Like, running into... It's not like this guy was floor level. I mean, this guy was a good... I don't know what, 7, 8 rows deep?
Yeah, he cleared like, those rows pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I'm going into the stands. That's just me.
I say yes because I'm just imagining somebody even right now tossing a drink in my face that wasn't water. Like, one thing is if it's in the summertime and somebody tosses a glass of water in your face as a joke or something like that. But like, if somebody just tossed juice in my face right now, I can't imagine the level of rage that would put me in. You know what I mean? Like it's go time. It's go time. Like to me, I understand all the ramifications of everything else, and it might sound funny to say, but I never blamed them for running in the stands. Like, yes, the everything that happened after, the consequences that happened after that was like legendarily crazy, and yeah, like that alone would make you stop and would make pretty much everybody stop going forward. But I'm just saying, in that moment, like just Think about right now, Headley. You're walking the street and somebody tosses a beer in your face. Aren't you becoming a UFC fighter on site?
Yeah, but that's a different scenario where you're on the street and somebody does that to you, as opposed to you're wearing a uniform representing a franchise,
right?
And somebody does that to you from 8 rows or 10 rows deep. So it's not like they're in your grasp. I mean, I would like to say that I wouldn't do anything, but you know.
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm like, even if maybe I don't know if I go. Like, see, that's the thing, right? Like, I said it, back then, and I'll say it again. Like, I don't blame him, or will I ever blame him for running in the stands? Like, it's to me, just because it's a natural human reaction. I think the problem is, if you're gonna do that, you got to make sure you have the right guy, right? Like, you can't run up on the wrong guy, and that to me is the problem. Like, it's funny. Like, there's something Kenny Smith said years ago regarding this that it always stuck with me. That it always makes me laugh when I think of it. But he's when he refers to like Steven Jackson and like Ron Artest in those situations, he's like, yo, some players are soldiers. It's like Steven Jackson is a soldier. Ron Artest is a soldier. Those guys are soldiers. But then you have some soldiers that are praying for war, and to me, he's like those aren't the guys. Like, you want soldiers, but you can't have number one.
You don't want those some loose screws either.
Right. Like, you definitely don't want more than one of those guys on your team. At least when you have 2 or 3 of those guys, nobody, especially like, it's not football. Like, whereas like there's so much players on a roster, it's so hard to like control that, because they could affect the locker room. I mean, that's a whole other thing though. But like I mean, Steven Jackson was not trying to, in any way situation, this guy was not trying to stop anything. He definitely wasn't trying to stop the test.
Hell no. No. As he said, he went in there to fight.
Yeah, 100%. So it's like that statement that Kenny Smith always made, I always thought it was hilarious, but it was so true. It's such a true statement. Like, some guys are praying for war, and I feel like Steven Jackson was praying for war in that situation. But at the same time, you understood, because again, it's a human reaction. Like, if that happened in one of our high school games, that happened, like, you would understand like why somebody will go do that. I'm not saying it's right, you know what I mean? But like, you definitely understand like that, because I mean, other than getting spat in your face, that's like one of the ultimate levels of disrespect that a human being can take, right?
Yeah, you snap.
Yeah, I think anybody would be in that situation, like, it would go off. Or at least you run up a few rows in the stands until somebody grabs you, but maybe you don't attack the person, but you run up on them, like, at least, you know what I mean, to like scare the shit out of them or something. But like, I don't think you're just taking that like, hey, security, go get them. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna have to hold you back.
Straight beeline right to him.
The documentary was good. Like I said, I thought it could have been a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, I understand Artest's point, man. Like, I like, in terms of that aspect, I understand it. Like, I totally get him. I got it then, I get it then, and I get it now. Where it's like, what do you do? What do you do in that situation? That's a hard, even for Ron Artest, even with the reputation, that is a hard position to put anybody in. Thank you for checking out the Ave Podcast. And shout out to Headley for hopping on this Untold Malice at the Palace version of the Ave. So the next episode of my story featuring Jalen Celestine will be out on September the 14th. I can't wait for you to hear it, honestly. I really can't. Please check that out once again on September the 14th. That should be a lot of fun. My next episode of the Ave is not confirmed yet, but it'll either be on September 17th or the week after. But once I know, you'll know. There will be no episode next week. I'm in the mode of refreshing my mind right now. I've gone through a lot this summer. I mean, let's face it, we've all gone through a lot, and we're going through a lot right now. So we see eye to eye on that here. But I'm going to recharge this a little bit. I'm just continuing to recharge a little bit. It's much needed, and sometimes, it's a good thing. I'm going to be back pumping out episodes like clockwork, as always, so I appreciate your support. Check out my catalog for past episodes on my website, SouthShoreAve.com. Once again, that's SouthShoreAve.com. I'm going to say it one more time for emphasis. That's SouthShoreAve.com. And hit the like and favorite buttons on your pod apps. Hit all of the stars once again. And we'll be back on the 14th. All right? So for Headley, this is Cal C. And you just tuned into the Ave Podcast on South Shore Ave Radio. All right? Until the 14th, peace. We out. Have a great long weekend. Peace.